Here's a piece of advice. Never talk to anybody about your problems, ever. Ever. Why? Because people don't know how to manage that properly. You ever went to somebody and you're not necessarily looking for advice, you just want to vent. But what you'll receive is a shitload of advice, and the advice is really bad. So, for example, I, well, actually, they approached me. I didn't seek this out. I'd been going through a bad time. This person knew about it, and they asked me about it. Um, Now, this was a family member who asked me, and I told them, and I told them my theories as to why that happened the way that it did, and sort of my opinion on people like that. And they just cut me off. They're like, "You're very XYZ. Here's what you need to do." And then the rest of the advice was like, "Oh, plenty more fish in the sea," and all this kind of like fucking dime a dozen sayings. And there's wisdom in them, yes, but it's not appropriate to actually say that to anybody uh, in a context where somebody is upset. It's very poor form. And I know that most people are not qualified fucking counselors. Like, they don't understand shit. Um, but, that's what I'm saying. Don't seek advice from anybody else. Don't open up to anyone. It's only gonna fucking hurt you. It's so rare to find somebody who actually just listens. Like, just listens and just shuts the fuck up. Like, you can listen to somebody and then give your own, like, this is how I do it. I say I'm pretty good at it. I just listen, and then you acknowledge it, whatever it is that they're saying, and you say, fucking sucks. And then, if they don't want to talk anymore, or they don't have anything, the story has reached a natural conclusion, you say, yep, fucking sucks. Here's an example of something in my life that may or may not be similar, you know. And then the conversation continues. So you develop a camaraderie there. It's a human sharing experience. I don't get that though. I don't get that when I talk to people. They give me some fucking garbage advice, and a lot of the time they don't really understand anyway, because they're not the kind of person that would be in under, understand the perspective, you know. But at the same time, they don't understand that everybody has different perspectives to begin with. So they don't understand that they have a different perspective than me. So what they feel like what they're saying is law, universal law, is absolute correctness. And it's not. And then they get fucking pissed off if you ever say anything against it. So, for example, this person said to me, um, playing more fish in the sea, blah, 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 blah. Right? Well, I would be like, I didn't say this, but I would be like, I don't think so. Not my experience. I don't think I'll ever get something quite like this again. You know, if I did that, they would be like, they would take it thick. They would be quite ornery about it, upset that I dare challenge them and their infinite wisdom. So it becomes hostile at that point. It becomes you've went from they've went from counseling somebody, having an emotional shared human experience, to being hostile with that person because they dare disagree with their infinite wisdom. And if I had fucking a pound for every time this has happened in my life, uh, I'd be very, very rich, which would be great because then I wouldn't need these people anymore. Um, but I'm not. Um, So yeah, never open up to anyone. It's only gonna cause you problems. Unless you happen to meet somebody who you can have that mature kind of relationship with. Uh, Mature kind of trading of information and emotional uh, you're sharing your emotions and somebody to lean on, right? If you can have that, go for it. But most people don't open up to them. Don't open up to strangers. Don't open up to family. Don't open up to fucking anyone. Especially if you're a man. If you're a man and you start opening up to people, people see you as weak. Like, they just can't help it. I understand it. Like, it depends what it is. It's okay talking about some stuff. Like, I've always been quite open and talking about my feelings and so on. That's why I can make these videos. And I don't really care if anybody that I know or knew watches these videos. I don't really give a shit, if it makes me look or a certain way. But there are topics that you can't talk about as a man. Like, you just cannot. Um, because it does make you look weak. It does. Like, so the way that I talk, like, I have experienced anxiety, for example, in my life. I have, of course, like, really bad anxiety. But I dress it up, and I dress it up for a reason. Because if you just come out with it raw, like, I fucking broke down and started crying. I didn't, but you see, and even the need for me to say that I didn't, is all tied into it. Um, if you're a man and you start saying shit like that, say you say it to your partner. Now, a lot of women will say, at least in my experience, I'm not saying this is universally the case, but a lot of women will say that they're okay with it, right? But they're not. And I'll tell you why they're not. And I don't even think that a lot of people are aware of this, but it does change something in the dynamic of the relationship. Something that most people don't appreciate or understand or see. As soon as you say to somebody, I really, really struggle with this situation, but you say it in such a way that I started crying and shaking or fucking piss my pants, something in this social situation. I completely broke down. It was completely untenable for me. Um, or here's a better one, maybe more of an extreme example and more in alignment with traditional masculine archetypes, right? I I was in a fight. This guy was like really coming at me, and I got really scared, and I cried. Something like that, ooh, that doesn't go well for a lot of people. And though, you see, this is the thing. This is why people are so funny to me. Everybody claims to be so modern. I'm so modern. I'm so fucking liberal. I'm so socially up to date. I'm so evolved. But then you say something like that, and suddenly everybody falls back to these traditional values all of a sudden. It's almost like all this window dressing actually doesn't fucking matter. Uh, and it's true. It is true. They'll never admit it. Never. Never, never, never. But you can tell. Because I've had this experience before. It wasn't specifically about fucking crying in a fight, but it was, about mental health stuff. As soon as you declare this to your partner, somebody you're romantically involved with, it changes the dynamic dramatically. They can't see you the same way anymore. It's almost like they would see you as strong or maybe strong, but then they see you as weak. And it's just funny because my whole life everybody's been like, "You gonna talk about your fucking feelings," you know, and all this fucking shit. But it's just not true. people are not people are not smart enough for that. People are not smart enough to understand that, yeah, sometimes men do actually fucking cry and feel uh, scared. You know, this is sort of going off on a rant tangent now, but it reminds me of this girl that I just broke up with. You know, because her whole thing is kind of like this. I don't want to say a victim complex because that's unfair. Because I know that she has had bad experiences in the past, but I don't really have a better word for it. Um, you know, she would be very, well, maybe it's not a victim complex. She would just be very conscientious of what she has to endure as a woman by herself, right? Stuff like, and I imagine, I hope most women are the same way in terms of being conscientious of their environment, right? Because you don't want to end up in a shitty situation, something bad happen, right? Makes sense, you know. But she would say shit like, I remember, so I used to walk her home just because I don't want anything bad to happen to her, you know. But she would say shit like, "Oh, it's really dark." Uh, I don't remember exactly, but I had to walk along this back road in the dark, you know. Um, and she's like, "Oh, I'll talk to you in a bit." So I think I made a joke like, "Yeah, if I get back safely," uh, you know, jokey, but also relevant. And she'd be like, "Oh, you're fine. You're a man." Kind of, not really. So I would walk. I mean, I had no problems, and I've walked this road many times before. And because I am the way that I am, I don't give a shit anyway. But you do think about it as as a man. Like, I don't want to run into a problem. I don't have some fucking like shield of invulnerability. If some dudes don't like the look of me, they're gonna start some shit. And if there's more than one, I'm probably fucked. You know, I won't get raped, likely, but you know, I might die. It's not a situation that I'm unfamiliar with. You know, so I hate this kind of idea that women like this say that men have such an easy fucking time. It's not true. Not at all. I don't have some like, I'm like a puny fucking dude. I don't have some air of intimidation around me that people are just going to take a look at me and walk the other way. That's not how this works. In fact, if anything, being like me and being alone is more of a problem because you become an easy target. You know, if there's anything unusual about your appearance, like you have long hair or something, like you dress like fucking emo or something, you know, if you're unusual in any way, then you become a target as a man too, you know. And a lot of the time the consequences are quite fucking real. I know from my own life and my own experiences that it is a thing. And it's scary. It is scary, you know, having to worry. I carry a knife every day. Carry a knife every day. Not a legally sized knife, but just a knife because it makes me feel better. Um, because I have to. Because the world is a hostile place. So it's not just a gender thing. I hate that shit. And I hate it because even if you bring it up with them, it gets completely written off as if what you're saying doesn't matter. As if you're lying or, you know, like it's somehow not relevant. Because it doesn't cater to this idea that um it doesn't cater to the narrative. And you know the narrative. I'm not gonna go into the narrative, but you know the narrative. And it's basically fuck men. It doesn't blend into that. You know, there's no gray area. It has to be black and white for that to work. And of course, it's ridiculous, and it's all gray. The situations that it is black and white are so rare, but there's almost like an agreed consensus that um, that's the way it is for some reason. I don't remember what I was originally talking about in this video, but I think I'm about done talking for now, so